And we're here in Taipei at RightsCon 2025 on the final day of the world's leading summit on human rights in the digital age. And we're talking to some amazing thought leaders. We have with us now Charles Mock. Charles, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me give you a bit of an introduction because you're a research scholar at the Global Digital Policy Incubator of the Cyber Policy Center at Stanford University. That's just one part of your work.
Yes.
You're also a member of the Board of Trustees of the Internet Society and a board member of the International Center for Trade Transparency and Monitoring. You must be in your natural habitat here.
Natural habitat being that I'm doing several things at the same time, trying to parallel process myself and failing at any of them.
I've never seen you fail, Charles.
No,
But you must be hearing a lot, learning a lot.
Yes.
What sort of are the top takeaways that you're hearing?
Well, the top takeaway, I think, is that people are quite worried about the current situation, very worried about the current situation because of the recent changes in, for example, some of the countries that, some of the, like the US and so on, which are causing a great deal of stress about, digital rights defenders, wherever they're based in, whether they are, previously depending on some of the support from Western democracies and so on, where it's going to go. The topic that people generally talk a lot about these days in any of such kind of gatherings might be about AI. And that the outlook is even more confusing, if not depressing, because of the fact that we just don't know where it's going. Because, just like a couple of weeks ago, they even changed the name from AI safety to AI action. Action, right?
Yeah.
So what does action mean?
What does action mean?
Right. I think probably to them it means more development, more competition, more making more money, and
No
so on.
regulation.
Less
Action
regulation.
against-
I mean, development of the technology. I'm all for it, right?
Yeah.
And even for some individuals or companies to make more money from it and become more profitable, that could be fine. But the problem is you need to also balance it with the right degree of governance and regulations and so on. And it's not like we haven't seen problems already happening.
Yeah.
But right now, it's just like the shift is, not only from the United States, but actually in Europe. You see that the rhetoric is changing a lot and moving toward, or maybe realizing that they have to follow the American lead or try to stay in the race by following the American model, which is in some way a little bit worrying.
Have you guys seen the second edition of the Squid Games?
No.
I watch it.
I don't. You've watched it, okay? Well, I don't.
Yeah.
For the faint of heart. But there's this like terrible moment. Spoiler alert, where the remaining participants in the Squid Game are basically given a fork to eat their food, and then when the lights go off, they all start basically stabbing each other, and with forks, and that's sort of just like. It's not even Wild West.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like a deliberate. Like you look at Trump's framing. It's like might is right, and it's particularly like it's sort of male powered as well. Like it's just it's horrible. And I think in the development of social media, and we've seen what goes wrong there was an opportunity for us to do AI right because we can see the consequences of it. And this whole move towards, like, as you say, action. I mean, we did have Henri Verdier on the podcast a few days ago, and he did talk very passionately about some of the guardrails that they're trying to put around it, around equity, non-discrimination, transparency, etc. But it feels as though, and incidentally, the US government didn't sign the communique that came out of that meeting. It feels as though, whoever's got the more powerful technology, whether it be DeepSeek or whether it be, will win.
Well, I think there might be a bit of hope in the sense that some of these companies outside of the three big pillars, Europe, North America being mainly the US and China, I do see that the discussion is still ongoing in some of the other countries. You might consider them to be lesser power in terms of the technology capabilities or the market share compared to the three big pillars. But there are still, for example, in Asia, in many of the countries in Southeast Asia, in Japan, or even here in Taiwan, there are still very reasonable and robust discussion about where they should be
That's good
going.
to know.
Yeah, but of course, maybe they're a little bit insulated and from what's happening with the three leaders. On the other hand, I think AI does give these countries a little bit of a sovereignty angle to it, for better or worse,
Tell us
right?
about that.
Well, because people are talking about cyber sovereignty and AI sovereignty in the sense that uh, in the worst part of it, it causes, let's say, internet fragmentation and
Mm-hmm.
so on. You need
Mm-hmm.
data regulations different in each country, and you want data to be stored in your country and so on. But on the other hand, AI does offer many countries the capability to leapfrog, in a sense that because of open source AI, because of all these relatively accessible ways to train their own models in their own language and culture and data and so on. So many countries are doing that,
Mm-hmm.
including Taiwan. And so they also realize that they have to set up the sort of governance, maybe even legislations around it. So they are doing it their ways. And in some ways, they're copying from, let's say, the AI Act or part of the AI Act. They
From the
still
European
do.
Union.
They still do.
Mm.
And so I guess it remains to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah. So at least uh, it's not like that it is completely going to be following an American model. But of course, the other risk is that with the emergence of DeepSeek and the
Mm.
likes, and they're going after a completely open source model, and if technologies from China is going to take over for many of these smaller countries, if not Taiwan, maybe
Mm.
many of countries in the
In
global
Africa,
majority
yeah,
and
yeah.
so on, that may be a good thing in some
That is
ways,
interesting.
but are there other risks that would be involved?
Remember now we talked about, open source from a closed country, like this
Yeah,
whole idea about the irony of seeing
yeah,
the American AI largely being proprietary and Chinese AI being open source, and
yeah,
like the irony attached to that.
Yeah.
Let me I
yeah.
want to flip back if it's okay, because
Sure.
I think it's important for us to talk to you as well about the past as well as the future. And I want to just understand about your role in the Hong Kong Parliament,
Mm,
because you were a member of the Legislative
council.
Council, and for 8 years, and it was like a very, very important time, and you stood firm for many years, and many people have commented upon the role that you play to try and protect Hong Kong democracy and digital rights, and the power of technology as a enabling force for participation, etc. Obviously, things have changed
Mm-hmm.
somewhat, but it'd be good just to hear about that experience and also reflect upon that with respect to what's happening here in Taiwan.
Well, I think the experience, of course, for me personally, is very precious and important. It was, um in a way, we are, uh, what we gone through must be very similar to what has been happening in many other countries,
Mm-hmm.
in many other jurisdictions, including even in Taiwan. What we have been doing with other than the issues around democracy and political development and the unfortunate failure that of in Hong Kong, even in terms of digital rights. We fought for many years to strengthen our privacy law, for
Yes.
example, and I do see that, for example, right now I am very interested in the recent development in the amendments that the Taiwan government has been putting up for their privacy law,
Mm.
which is rather backward and needs update. But I see a lot of parallels.
Good updates to the
It's good
privacy.
update, but
Yeah,
I'm afraid not enough. But
not
I
enough. Yeah.
probably not time to get into the deep details of it. But other areas such as how we were trying to protect the digital right in Hong Kong in terms of fighting some of the draconian laws in using potentially possibly using uh, the name of intellectual property protection to
Yes.
possibly make it more difficult for expression of opinions, using different derivative work and so on. We gone through that in Hong Kong, which
Trojan
was
horses,
yeah,
in a way.
in a way. But I think the most important thing that I found was that anytime you have a movement like that, as long as you can gather people from different community to join in the effort, particularly young people, that is the most important part. Because right now, I'm quite a few more years older than
It
when I
happens.
started. That happens, but I do see that even some of those young people that joined the movement at the time, they might be even in high school or even younger and so on. Now they're all grown up and taking their own lead in fighting for either political rights or fighting for digital rights, or just being a good citizen in many ways. I think that is the most valuable thing for me to see as an older guy now.
We saw on the news this morning
Yeah,
that Trump has denied to support
yeah,
Taiwan. He's been very cagey around that in the instance of any aggression
yeah.
from China. I'm wondering how you feel about that statement,
Yeah,
given your experience in Hong Kong.
I'm not surprised.
Mm.
I think people would be surprised if he said anything
Different.
differently,
Yeah.
right? He's not the kind of person, even if you look at the last couple of weeks of his rhetoric around Ukraine, he's not the kind of guy who will come out and say, I'll protect you and so on from
Yeah.
the beginning, right?
And
And
people are
he's,
saying that the fate of Ukraine is very much tied
oh,
to the
yeah.
fate of Taiwan.
Or people in Taiwan is thinking that their fate is very much tied to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So if I think about that, I mean, just today I saw another article about TSMC and so on. So I'm thinking that if Trump being so transactional and he want to get something, he want to make a deal, and he want to get something from Taiwan.
It seems he wants to get the chip market because
Exactly.
90% of the advanced computer chips are
not
made
only
here.
the chip market, he wants probably similar to what he was
Yeah.
doing in Ukraine.
Rare earth.
I got your rare earth. Now
Yeah.
I got your chip technology,
Yeah.
and I got your chip companies.
Hmm.
Sell me, or give it to me, or sell it to me, the whole thing or half of it, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So that is going to be
He's like a New York
complicated.
haggler.
Yeah.
Trump, he's out there like haggling
Yeah.
like our geopolitics and our global safety on like you give, and
Our
it is-
digital future.
and our digital
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
like America first.
Yeah.
I mean, how about America just like second or third for a minute?
Yeah, just take a back seat. But he's calling it, America is the pot of gold. Everyone wants it.
Yeah.
But do we really want to or
Well,
necessarily tie our future to that administration?
Well, I just worry that how sustainable this type of attitude is going to be, and America has for many years been seen as a dependable friend. I think for many people in this country,
Yeah, the
I'm
ally.
not a Taiwanese person, but I have many friends that have great relations with people in Taiwan, in the U.S. And I just worry that this kind of friendship, the nature of it, would change. And in the long run, I really, I'm not sure that how beneficial it is, even for a long term U.S. interest. But
Interesting.
So, re the chips and the technology that's coming out of Taiwan, like how important is it to the global supply chain? America and other countries are trying to sort of
yeah.
co-opt it, as Nell said. Like, what are some of the other centers that could kind of fill the breach there, or is it really Taiwan or as the kind of central place where we source the technology?
The Taiwan chip miracle is, I think,
Miracle.
it is a miracle.
Yeah.
It is a miracle, not just in the fact that it's become the largest and most successful and most advanced chip manufacturer in the world.
The bargaining chip.
Oh well, not only that. I mean, even for Taiwan itself, this is the only most successful industry. I'm not saying the other industry are not successful, but relatively, I mean, this is the only shining gem for Taiwan. So if you look at it from
What
both
about bubble
angles,
tea?
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. If you talk about food, then we have a lot to talk about. But yeah, uh, uh, but I think this is there are many factors behind
Yeah.
it, and it's not like that there aren't problems with
Yeah.
a successful industry
Mm.
like this being in Taiwan. I think the biggest issue that they are facing right now and has been for many years has been manpower,
Mm.
because it's relatively a small place in
Mm.
terms of the supply of talent within Taiwan.
Mm.
So they're trying to get a lot of other Asian countries
Oh
talent
yeah.
coming into Taiwan to fill that gap. But for a uh, more uh, uh, in not as open kind of a country in terms of comparing with like a US or other like an immigrant country, Taiwan isn't one of those.
Mm.
So they are facing some issues.
Mm.
And there are also other issues like water, power supply, electricity, and so on.
Yeah.
Not to mention the
Mm.
geopolitical
Yeah.
issue,
And the
part of it
cables
being,
getting
yeah,
cut all
and
the
the
time
cables, yeah.
Yeah.
from China.
Yeah, and
The
the cable
under
is
the
one
sea
of the
cables.
areas that I have been working quite. I've been looking into for 2 or 3 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just I don't know whether I should feel lucky that I caught on to the right topic, or should be worried that every other day it seems like another cable in Taiwan get cut. But that's one area that I've been doing quite a lot of research recently into, and hopefully we can also provide some good policy recommendations to governments in this region to better protect themselves.
Is the answer in the
In the
sky,
in the low orbit?
satellites, rather
No,
than
The
cables? No.
answer's not in the low orbit. No.
no,
Okay.
no. It's too little, too slow
Mm-hmm.
in terms of latency and capacity, and also too much dependency on Elon Musk.
And,
Yeah.
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 Well, I think now that we've mentioned his name, we should bring this discussion to a close because
Shut down.
we are at 50 minutes. Charles, it's been so great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
You know, as you can tell, I've admired your work
No.
ever since. Yes, ever since we first met back
The
in.
feeling is mutual.
No.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you came
Yeah.
and spoke at one of the first rights cons and brought a perspective from Hong Kong, and and now your academic work. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charles.